Well, we routinely get requests for the voter file. We get them all the time. I asked for it when I ran for office. It's a totally normal thing. What we normally get is requests by candidates, by the political parties, PACs, groups like that. They ask for the voter file, and that's no big deal. But what that contemplates is that we provide a redacted copy. So when I asked for the voter rolls, when I ran for statewide office, I didn't ask for people's driver's license numbers and social security numbers. I just want to know who's the D's and who's the R's, right? And where they live and do they vote or not. That's all public information. What was different about this request, of course, was that it wanted everything, including people's personal information. Well, obviously we redact that. We've got state laws that require that we redact that. So we promptly responded to the DOJ. We gave them the redacted version of the voter file, and it took them months to even open it. We know that because we sent them a file where if they open it, if they click on it, we get a notice. They were so uninterested in what we actually showed them that it took them literally months to even open that. So I was surprised when they ultimately came back and sued us to get people's personal information. We have very explicit, very clear laws that our legislature has passed that we've passed when Democrats ran the legislature, that we've passed when Republicans ran the legislature. We're talking about 50 years of legal precedent, making it very, very clear that people's personal information is not to be provided. It's not that I've made that decision myself. I just swore an oath to follow the law. And the law doesn't let me provide that sort of information to anybody. I can't give it to some random person in Walla Walla, Washington who asked for the voter file, even if that person's entitled to the public file. And I can't give it to the Department of Justice. You know, if you ask me what the biggest crisis I've ever had to deal with was, it actually wasn't COVID. It's the perpetual decline of people volunteering and serving others. And you see this across society, but you certainly see it with the elections. It's gotten harder to get poll workers since I started. And it's not because of the pandemic or even concerns about people being disruptive at the polls. It's none of that. It's just a decline in volunteering generally in America. And so one thing that made it harder actually wasn't really the pandemic. It was that we had in 2022 an abortion amendment on the ballot. And a lot of churches that had been voting locations said, we don't want to be a voting location and have abortion on the ballot in our church. We don't want to get people who go here riled up either on the pro-choice side or the pro-life side. Like we don't want to be part of the voting process on abortion. And so a lot of churches have quit. It takes thousands and thousands of locations to run a statewide election. And I don't have thousands of buildings. I don't own any buildings. So every building I get either has to be a school, and the schools don't want to do this. They don't want to have to close. They don't want to have to worry about someone scouting out the premises and coming back and shooting the place up. Mm-hmm. So schools don't want to be voting locations. Churches don't want to be voting locations. Well, I don't own these buildings. And so it's a question of what can we find, what can we commandeer. The more controversial elections get, the more toxic they get, the less easy it is, not just to get people to volunteer for a 12-plus hour day to check in people and check their ID. It also gets harder to run a location because people just don't want to be part of it.
What do you think about federalism in the election process?
I think the Founding Fathers got it right. I think they were very wise when they decided that Washington shouldn't run everything in our society, that there was a place for state legislatures and secretaries of state and governors, let alone local officials like county clerks. That's our system of government. We're not centralized like you have in Europe. We've got a robust infrastructure of non-federal governments. That's what the Founding Fathers gave us. Elections specifically in the Constitution. There's all kinds of stuff in the Constitution that the Constitution is neutral about who should do it. Or it says Congress should do it. Congress can raise an army and a navy, right? I don't do that. But they were very clear in the Constitution that the elections are to be handled by the states. It's right there in the Constitution. So that's why I'm here. That's why I ran for this job, and that's why I do what I do. This is the state's responsibility. I'm perfectly happy for the federal government to try to be good partners by giving us federal funds to help us run federal elections. It's a legitimate role for them to play. I'm even okay with basic civil rights provisions. If we didn't have Congress step in 65 years ago and tell the states they couldn't have these Jim Crow procedures, then we would never have had African Americans able to vote in our country. So there are good reasons for Congress to intervene and pass election laws. But this is not a situation where they have done that. They didn't pass a law that said, give up all this personal information on millions of Kentuckians. They just never did that.
Mm-hmm.